Sometimes, a plate of food is just a meal. It's fuel for a busy day. But on this particular day, for one little girl, it was everything. She stared at a world of warmth and flavor she could only imagine, a world away from the cold glass of water on her own table. She thought no one noticed her quiet longing. She thought her hunger was invisible. She was wrong. What happened in that ordinary diner would set off a chain reaction no one could have predicted. It's a story that proves the most powerful forces in our lives aren't grand gestures, but the small, quiet acts of kindness that ripple outward. And sometimes, decades later, they ripple right back to where they started. This single moment wouldn't just change one life, but two, forever. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind of unremarkable day you usually forget. Inside the corner booth, a cozy diner that always smelled like coffee and fried onions, a man named Arthur sat alone. In his late 40s, Arthur was a man of routine, and every Tuesday, after a long day running his small construction business, he treated himself to the signature dish, Salisbury steak with a mountain of mashed potatoes and gravy. It was his fortress of comfort on a ceramic plate. The diner was humming along, the soft clinking of silverware serving as a gentle soundtrack. Arthur was savoring his meal, a small island of peace in a busy week, when he felt it. A stare. It wasn't rude or demanding, just steady. He lifted his eyes from his plate and saw her. A little girl, no older than 7, sat 2 tables away with a woman who looked worn down by the world. On their table, there was nothing but 2 glasses of water. The little girl, Lily, wasn't just looking at him, she was looking at his plate. Her eyes were fixated on the swirl of mashed potatoes and the rich, dark lake of gravy. It wasn't simple curiosity, it was a deep, profound longing. To her, that plate wasn't just food, it was a dream. Arthur felt an unfamiliar pang in his chest. He saw the girl's mother, Sarah, notice where her daughter was looking, and a flush of embarrassment colored her cheeks. She gently touched her Lily's arm, whispering something that made the girl drop her gaze to the empty table, her small shoulders slumping in defeat. Arthur tried to go back to his meal, but the taste was gone. The comfort it offered a minute ago now felt like a cruel indulgence. He could feel the heavy, silent weight of their presence. He saw Sarah reach into a worn-out purse, pulling out a few crumpled bills and some coins, just enough for a small tip for the water. She was getting ready to leave, to take her daughter back into the chilly evening with nothing to show for it but a brief rest in a warm room. He watched her pull on a thin coat, her movements quiet, as if she were trying to shrink and become invisible. She gently took Lily's hand, who followed without a word, her earlier fascination gone, replaced by that same look of resignation that felt too heavy for a child. They were trying to leave quietly, but he saw them. In that moment, Arthur could have done nothing. He could have finished his meal, paid his bill, and walked away, forgetting the girl's hungry stare by the time he got to his car. It would have been easier. It would have been normal. But he couldn't. The image of the girl's eyes, that mix of hunger and wonder, was stuck in his mind. He thought of his own comfortable life and the ease with which he could order this meal. It just felt wrong to sit in his fortress of comfort while a child a few feet away knew only its absence. He flagged down the waitress, a kind-faced woman named Flo. When she came over, he kept his voice low. "Excuse me," he said, nodding discreetly toward the kitchen. "I think there's been a mistake. I'm pretty sure I ordered 2 of these." He gestured to his half-eaten steak. "My eyes were bigger than my stomach tonight." Flo looked confused for a second. "Oh no, sir, the ticket just says 1. I know, he insisted gently. "It was my mistake when I ordered. But it's already been made, hasn't it? The second one." He was taking a chance, but he had to. Flo, a veteran of the service industry, understood in an instant. A flicker of comprehension crossed her face as she played along seamlessly. "Yes, sir. It just came up. I was about to bring it out." "Perfect," Arthur said, giving her a grateful smile. "Could you box it up for me to go? All of it? the steak, the potatoes, everything. And you know what? Please add a slice of that chocolate cake as well, for the inconvenience." He paid his bill, including the phantom second meal, and left a huge tip for Flo's unspoken teamwork. With the warm, heavy bag in his hand, he walked to the exit. Sarah and Lily were right at the door. "Excuse me," Arthur said softly. Sarah turned, her expression guarded, as if expecting a complaint. Arthur held out the bag. "I am so sorry to bother you. I did a foolish thing and ordered 2 full meals. There's no way I can eat all this, and I live alone. I'd hate for it to go to waste." He made a point of looking at Sarah, not Lily, trying to preserve her dignity. "Please, would you do me a favor and take it? It's the Salisbury steak and some cake." Sarah stared at the bag, then at his face, searching for any hint of pity. She found none. All she saw was a man genuinely asking for a favor. Her eyes welled with tears as a dam of pride and exhaustion finally broke. She couldn't speak, so she just nodded, her throat tight with emotion, and took the bag. Lily, however, looked right at Arthur. Her earlier sadness was gone, replaced by that same look of awe. She didn't say thank you. She just gave him a small, shy wave that was more powerful than any words could be. Arthur smiled, nodded, and walked past them into the night, the weight in his chest now feeling strangely light. He never saw them again, or so he thought. 20 years passed, and in 20 years an entire life can be redrawn. For Arthur, those 2 decades were a slow, grinding descent. The construction business he'd built from the ground up, the one that paid for those Tuesday steak dinners, had crumbled. It wasn't one thing, it was a domino effect of bad luck. A major client went bankrupt. A recession dried up contracts. Bigger firms moved in and undercut his prices. He fought to keep it afloat, pouring his life savings into the business, but it was like trying to patch a sinking ship with his bare hands. The day he had to close the doors for good was the worst day of his life. After that, his world started to shrink. He sold his house and moved into a small apartment. Then the car went. His savings vanished. Now, at 67, Arthur was a shadow of the man he once was. He wasn't a business owner anymore. He was an old man hunting for any work he could find. He'd apply for jobs stocking shelves, driving delivery vans, anything. But the calls never came back. He saw the polite dismissal in the eyes of young hiring managers. He was too old, a relic. His days became a painful loop. Job hunting at the library, walking home to his cold apartment, and carefully rationing what little food he had. Hunger, once a concept he'd seen in a little girl's eyes, was now a constant ache in his own stomach. He had become invisible. People walked right past him, their eyes sliding over him as if he wasn't there. He once built things from blueprints and dreams. Now he felt like he was being dismantled, piece by piece. He never asked for help. Pride was the one luxury he had left. He sometimes remembered the feeling of helping that woman and her child. He never regretted it, but the memory now had a bitter irony. He was the one with the full plate then. Now his own was empty. There's a kind of loneliness that gets into your bones, and Arthur felt it constantly. He was adrift in a sea of people, and he was the one trying to leave quietly now. It was a gray, drizzly Thursday, the kind of day that makes everything feel a little more hopeless. Arthur was at a community job fair, the air thick with desperation. He'd been there for hours, collecting pamphlets and handing his resume to people who gave him the same tired, sympathetic smile. He'd just been turned down for a part-time janitor job. Overqualified, the man said, a gentle word for too old. Defeated, Arthur sank into an empty chair in the corner. He stared at the floor, a hollow feeling echoing in his chest. He was ready to give up. At the front of the room, a presentation was finishing. A poised, articulate young woman was wrapping up a workshop on starting a small business. Her name was Lily. After her talk, Lily walked through the crowd offering encouragement. Her foundation had provided boxed lunches for everyone, and as she made her way through the room, her eyes landed on the solitary man in the corner. She saw his slumped shoulders and the profound weariness on his face, and her heart ached. She felt an inexplicable pull, a sense of familiarity she couldn't quite place. She walked over, holding out a boxed lunch. "Excuse me, sir," she said gently. "You didn't get a lunch. Please, have one." Arthur looked up, startled. "Oh, no, thank you. I'm all right," he mumbled, pride kicking in. "Please," Lily insisted, placing the box on the chair beside him. "We have plenty. No one should go hungry." That phrase, "no one should go hungry," struck a chord deep inside him. He finally looked at her, really looked at her, and took the box. "Thank you," he whispered. "That's very kind." Lily smiled, but didn't leave. There was something about his eyes. "Are you here looking for work?" she asked. Arthur nodded, feeling a flush of shame. "I used to be," he said, more to himself than to her. "I owned a business. Construction."
"That's wonderful," Lily said, her interest genuine. "What was it called?" "Coleman Construction. It's been gone a long time." The name meant nothing to her. She was about to offer him a card for her foundation's job program when Arthur sighed. "I used to love my work. Back when things were good, I had this ritual. Every Tuesday, I'd go to this diner, the corner booth, for a steak dinner." The moment he said the corner booth, a flash of memory ignited in Lily's mind. A dim, warm light, the smell of coffee, the clink of a fork on a plate. Her heart started beating faster. "The corner booth?" she repeated. "On Elm Street?" "That's the one," Arthur said, a faint smile on his lips. "Closed years ago. Best Salisbury steak in the city." Lily's breath caught. The dreamlike memory was getting clearer. A man sitting alone, a plate of food that looked like a feast, a feeling of intense, gnawing hunger. Her mother's hand on her arm. The question felt absurd, but it tumbled out anyway. "Sir, this is a very strange question. Did you ever accidentally order 2 steak dinners there?" Arthur's smile vanished. He looked at her, completely bewildered. "What a thing to ask. Yes, I think I did, once. A very, very long time ago. Why?" Lily felt tears spring to her eyes. "What did you do with the second one?" she pressed, her voice thick with emotion. "I gave it away," Arthur said, confused. "There was a woman and her little girl. The girl, she looked so hungry. I gave it to them. I have no idea why I'm telling you this." Lily couldn't hold it back anymore. Tears streamed down her face as 20 years collapsed into a single breathtaking moment. "That was me," she whispered. "That little girl was me." Arthur just stared, his mind unable to connect the dots. This successful, confident woman was the hungry child from the diner? It seemed impossible. "You gave us that meal," Lily continued, her voice breaking. "My mother and I had nothing. We were going to a shelter that night. That meal wasn't just food. You have no idea what you did for us. It was the first time in so long that I felt like someone saw us. My mother never stopped talking about the kind man from the diner. That single act of kindness gave her the hope she needed to keep fighting." Arthur sat in stunned silence. The small, forgotten act from his past had just reappeared, fully grown and vibrant, standing right in front of him. Lily didn't just thank him, she saw him, just as he had seen her all those years ago. She learned about his collapsed business and his current struggle, and she repaid his kindness not with a handout, but with the one thing he desperately needed: purpose. She hired Arthur as a logistics consultant for her foundation. His decades of experience in planning and operations were invaluable. He wasn't a charity case, he was an asset. He didn't just give him a meal, she gave him back his livelihood, his dignity, and his sense of self. Weeks later, Arthur stood at a full-plate foundation event, watching hundreds of children receive hot meals. He was no longer on the outside looking in, he was a part of it. He saw Lily across the room, and she caught his eye and smiled. He finally understood. Kindness isn't a transaction, it's a seed. You plant it, sometimes in the rockiest soil, and you walk away, never knowing if it will grow. But it does. It grows in the dark, and its roots spread in ways you can't see. That one plate of food hadn't just fed a hungry child for a night, it had planted a forest. And when the person who planted it found himself lost in his own life, that forest had grown tall enough to welcome him home. If this story reminded you that there's still so much good in the world, please give this video a like and subscribe for more. We all have stories of kindness, big or small, that have changed us. What's the kindest act you've ever witnessed or been a part of? Share your story in the comments below. Let's fill this space with proof that compassion is all around us.